Hello, everybody. Groundback here. I'm with Cyber DJ and Zach and Theus. This is gonna be. Does this count as our first official Generation Jumble council meeting, or is that video I made a few weeks ago? Like, is that technically like the first one?
I mean, this will definitely be more of the going into the season two official one, whereas before we were kind of theory crafting. So yeah, I'd say this is the first official.
Okay. So yeah, the first official Generation Jumble council meeting. You guys already know who I am, but if you guys just want a bit of a reminder, Cyber DJ, he has been with my channel ever since the Hisuian Zororg video, managed to get second place in Generation Jumble Season 1. And Zack and Theus has been here even longer than he has. He's been here since the original Great Tusk video, and he managed to get third place in the tournament. So, we have a few things to address today. We're mostly going over Season 2, going over some things that we feel like need to be addressed so that you guys are more informed on how it's going to work, and also for us to just clear up any misconceptions or just answer any questions that we might have.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Like for people who aren't in the Discord server, there has been some questions about the legality of moves and things have been changing as people bring up good points. Like Robot Plush brought up recently about Yan Mega and Ancient Power. That was I don't think anybody considered that until he brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first person.
Yeah, I
And
definitely
I think
regret not putting or not using Ancient Power for the original Yam Mega video, even if it probably wouldn't have helped him, like, at all.
no, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be any good. I'm not even sure if ancient power is probably going to work. But if anybody uses ancient power and mega, gets that 10% omni boost, and then sweeps, I think things need to be said.
Does
Which is
Ancient
still
Power.
somehow more balanced than Dire Claw.
But does Ancient Power even work in custom games?
I don't know.
I
We have never tested
am
that
not
yet.
sure.
I feel like if it does work, what does Yamega really do? Like, I guess Psychic hits a little bit harder, but who cares?
I mean, you get that the +1 speed, and then you get that hypnosis. So I think by then it gets what the default fastest sleep setter after it gets that boost, but that's like a 10% chance. You're gonna risk it.
Man. Yeah, +1 Yamega with the Hypno Miss. Broken.
Gets the Omni boost, dies to Blizzard. That's how
Hmm.
we all want it to go.
Alright, so Ancient Power, Yamega will definitely get it. I think a full, maybe even a full 0% will use it, but he will, by golly, he will have it. And I think another Pokemon we should talk about real quick is Galvantula, because I didn't go over it in the Galvantula video, but I forget who. But someone did recommend that maybe we give Galvantula, what was it, Electro Web?
Yes, I did see that comment, Electroweb, and I think it's going to be interesting because it separates it from uh, just being outclassed by Jolteon. Really, it has a niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, because it's definitely not a move that's used a lot, I'm pretty sure Electro Web is just a 55 base power electric move that has a 100% chance of lowering the opponent's speed. So it's nothing too broken. But Galvantula is, a tarantula. So it makes sense for him to have it as like a signature. And just like Zach and Theus just said, it will mostly just be just something to give it a niche. Something that helps it stand out against Jolteon. And it's already going to have a ground neutrality in Slash. So I think giving Galvantula that will, it might give him a better chance than we would have thought otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what Cyber, how do you feel about the Electroweb Galvantula?
Pretty much don't have a complaint with Electroweb, because if we compare Galvantula to the other bug types, we have Golisopod and Armaldo, who are both kind of just alternatives to each other. One is definitely better than the other, Armaldo. But, there's still valid reasons to run Golisopod. And then you have Yanmega, who is trying their hardest. And whoever was the fifth bug type, which I forget in the moment,
Vespiquen.
that Vespiquen, that was the one. Vespiquen has the niche of having good signature moves. Meanwhile, Galvantula is like, I kind of counter Executor a little better, I hope. So I think giving it Electro Web is actually pretty cool. Because if you think about it, it's only helping it on everything except ground types, which already won't Galvantula anyways. So it's not going to be overpowered. Plus, the basically electric type string shot, that's a pretty cool niche to give it, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think Galvantula could be a pretty good support Pokemon. But at the very least, I think Electroweb will help it. I think at the very least, just give you a reason to use it instead of Zapdos. And I think while it probably doesn't have you beat Zapdos 1v1, lowering Zapdos' speed and getting good chip with Thunderbolt could be what forces Zapdos to switch out or for you to just revenge kill it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I see with Electroweb. It's going to be because you do have Thunderwave, but with Electroweb you can at least get the chip. If you're stuck in that 1v1 versus Tauros and you don't really have a switch in, you can Electroweb, at least lower its speed, do, I suspect, probably 30% or so, because Adventure's not weak. And then you've got a better way of revenge killing afterwards. So it could be interesting. And it's another move option, because Galvantula was kind of hurting for for moves.
You know, I literally just did a Minshao video last night, but Galvantula sounds like the perfect partner for it, especially against Tauros. Because if Galvantula can lower Tauros'
Oh, yeah.
speed,
It's yeah, you get that high jump kick outspeed. Yeah. Uh, that's been my biggest problem with Mian Shao is it's slower than a lot of the frail psychic types like Alakazam, but it's not strong enough to take on the slower psychic types like Exeggutor. So it's in a very weird lower something speed and have Mian Shao come in the late game. I think it could be pretty solid.
at the time of us making this video, I still have not gone over Iron Hands. So I can't say which one's going to be better, but I did look at Iron Hand stats last night, and it's like lowest relevant stat is 6-8 special defense, which in of itself is only 2 points lower than Tauros' special. So holy crap. I already know for a fact it's going to be bulky as hell.
Yeah, I did a couple calculations because it's got a really high HP stat and a decent defense stat. It is more physically bulky than both Rhydon and Cloyster.
Really now?
Just to put that in, yeah, like from a from most hits, you'll take about 3 to 6% less damage. So it's not much, but it
Oh,
takes less damage physically than Rhydon and Cloyster.
man, yesterday during the Manchow video, I had like a whole rant going over I wasn't sure how Chansey and Cloyster were going to do. somebody made a good point how even if there's more fighting types, there's still not really any alternative for a Pokemon like Chansey. So Chansey's definitely still going to be a part of the big three. But Cloyster, oh man, just like in Season 1, it just gets worse and worse for Cloyster the more you really think about it.
That one, Chief, because I know Cloyster's going to have a lot of bad matchups, but it also has some use case. For starters, a lot of the newer Pokemon are kind of on the slower side. You look at Golisopod, Armaldo, I'm pretty sure, Vespiquen, Iron Hands, I believe. All of these are slower than Cloyster, and they're pretty relevant in their own right.
Hmm.
So while Cloyster doesn't like facing them, I wouldn't call it useless. It's definitely better than in Season 1, where the top three was like a thing that would OHKO it, a thing that walls it, and 90% Tauros. Whereas this time the top threats are like Sneasler, which we'll get to whenever we get to it, and then you have like Gudra, who you already didn't want to face anyways. So as far as the physical attackers go, it's pretty much just Mian Shao, who's like the big problem child. Everything else is typically slower than you, and Annihilate can't boost its stats, so it cancels out. Because Annihilate without even with super active hits, Ape is not hitting as hard as the other fighting types.
Hmm. Yeah, like, I definitely think you're
So
right
I
there.
just
Better than Season 1, and I definitely don't think it's going to be, like, not OU. It's definitely still going to be very useful. And you do bring up some good points. It is going to be faster than a lot of the new Pokemon, which on one hand kind of concerns me, because I don't like the idea of Clamp being better than it already is. But on the other hand, Electroweb Galvantula, it will just keep Cloyster in place. It means that Iron Hands can outspeed it. So
yeah.
it'll be fine.
Oh
I
yeah, for
mean,
sure.
with
Like
yeah, okay, go on.
yeah, no, Cloyster is it's such a weird position because I don't think it's going to be bad, but because like you said, Cyber, a lot of the new things we've introduced are basically 50 speed or below, so they're not even close to Cloyster. But we're seeing that a lot of the faster Pokemon, they do have a lot of ways to deal with Cloyster. Like there's a lot of electric coverage and Psychic. I can see Psychic dominating in this. Alakazam I've seen has really gone up compared to Season 1. Alakazam I think is going to be really strong in this, and Cloyster doesn't appreciate the special attacks at all. So it's going to be interesting to see if people can make Cloyster work.
Now that we're talking about Cloyster, trying to struggle for the viability it has, Alakazam getting even better, and then Chansey being a mixed bag, we might as well just talk about, like, briefly go over the Gen 1 Pokemon and just see how they're going to compare in Season 2. Except Tauros, because, it's Tauros. I don't think we need to talk about that. I think the first one that I want to let Groundback start with this one, or Zach and Theus, whichever the two prefers, is probably Gengar. Because of all of the standard RBY Pokemon, Gengar is probably the one that interests me the most. And not because it's like amazing or anything, but because it's so much different in Season 2 compared to Season 1, strictly due to Hisui and Zoroark not being here. And there
Actually,
being more fighting types.
it actually like goes even more than that. I think it was Gold Gamer who explained to me in my Poison Jab video. But Gengar getting Poison Jab is just flat out so much better than Nightshade. Nightshade already does decent chip, but Gengar having a physical option that is super effective against Executor is quite frankly really huge. You can get decent chip with Poison Jab anyways, but being able to 3-hit KO Executor without a crit, and with a crit just doing insane damage, Gengar is gonna be so much better in this season. And while,
Oh, and that's
yeah,
another thing.
What?
It doesn't even need Poison Jab as a mandatory fourth move because, you got Hypnosis, Thunderbolt, Explosion. That's the standard. Nightshade was the fourth because it was the safest. But RBY Gengar would sometimes sub it out for Psychic, and Psychic is much better in this one because there's more fighting types and things of the like. So it's not like it even mandated Poison Jab. It just really appreciates the move. There's also the fact that Gengar can just straight up sub out one of its other moves. What if it's like a explosion 3 attacks Gengar, for example, with like Thunderbolt, explosion, Thunderbolt, Psychic, Poison Jab, and an explosion in the fourth slot? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Like I could see Gengar being a late game cleaner.
it's very cool. But also, we cannot deny, with Pokemon like Mienshao, who probably won't be using Rock Slide, we cannot deny that Counter Gengar will be a very dangerous threat. Mienshao kills your Chansey, you just take out Gengar, they're forced to switch out, use Counter, and because it's Gen 1, you're basically countering the high jump kick. It's just profit, like, everywhere Gengar looks.
I never considered that until you mentioned it. I forgot the counter glitch existed. That's actually gonna be insane.
Hmm.
So I wanna make a quick point on while we're talking about ghost types, and we did mention Annihilate earlier, I think. Um, Annihilate is gonna be so much better in season 2 because since there's a lot more fighting and ground moves being thrown around, it's just gonna find these opportunities to switch in. And while we're talking about it not having setup moves, I was taking a look as I was doing the document sheet and all that, and I discovered that it does have a boosting move. It has Meditate.
Is that in Gen 1?
Yeah, I remember
It's
Hypno
yeah,
gets
it's like
it.
it's yeah, it's Hypno and Mr. Mime and Hitmonlee. Annihilate gets it's mini sword stance. It's just a +1 attack raise, so it has. I don't think anybody knew that in season 1. I think it was kind of overlooked.
Uh, yeah, like, Sharpen probably wouldn't have worked against Metagross anyways, but that's huge. That is extremely relevant. It's not even just fighting types. Keep in mind, we'll talk about it later, but we've decided that the bug types will get Bug Bite, so Vespiquen won't be the only Pokemon with Bug Stab. And Annihilate, I think, quad resist Bug. So, despite being like a fighting type, I can see Annihilate just being just a great Pokemon to help with your Psychic types, as it has the tools to take on the Bug types and normal types that the Psychic types would normally fear. So, I don't think it's Nihil over. I think we're actually going to see Annihilation.
Oh, just for
Oh
a
yeah,
food
yeah,
for
yeah,
thought,
100.
Annihilate quadruple resist bug. It resists poison as well, so that's another relevant thing.
Yeah, immune to normal, immune to fighting, resists rock. It's such a good typing for season 2. I'm actually really happy Annihilate has been was allowed back in because it has so many more opportunities to show off what it can do, as opposed to season 1 where everything kind of mollywopped it.
And it's funny, because, like, when I suggested Annihilate, I always like, said it as like a joke. I didn't actually think about just how relevant a ghost fighting type would actually be. And it's like the only reason Gengar won't just be like de facto the best poison type, or I mean ghost type. It probably will be, but this might be very similar to like a Rhydon Great Tusk situation. Different, but I think both of them will probably be in the same tier, if I had to guess, in the viability rankings.
Yeah, I think the lack of earthquake weakness, it's going to help Annihilate a lot compared to Gengar. But like you said, they do two very different things, which is the interesting part.
Yeah, like, it might be like Pokemon Stadium Rentals, where it actually is debatably optimal just to have two ghost types on your team.
Yeah, especially without Pokemon like Terrakion to and Metagross to help bolster out your explosion defenses, if you will. Having Pokemon like Annihilate and Gengar and Rhydon on your team, it could be pretty good, especially against certain people who like to do some boom spam.
But
First of
now that
all,
we mention
I
it,
did like that you alluded to my boom spam.
oh
And
yeah.
second of all, while we're on the topic of boom spam,
Hmm?
I'm pretty sure the only things that we added that resist explosion, besides Annihilate, who at first was a meme but came back as like a genuine thing, I'm pretty sure the only one was Armaldo. I'm pretty sure that's the only normal resist we added.
Yeah, that's true. But also, we didn't add anything with explosion, right? So it's still only going to be just like Gengar and Cloyster for the most part exploding, maybe Executor.
Pretty much.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, nothing unless Salamence has some weird hidden event thing where it can explode from Shelgon. I don't know, but no, I don't think anything can. I don't think anything can boom.
Yeah, Salamence makes a wish
Believe me,
that
if
it
I
can
knew about
explode.
it, I would have checked it.
Actually, I just said that as a joke right now, but now I'm curious. So obviously, like in the lore, Bagon and wishing, it's kind of like a big deal. It's the reason it becomes a Salamence in the first place. Since we're giving Electro Web to Galvantula, which technically isn't a signature move in the first place, how do you guys feel about giving Salamence Wish?
We're opening up a whole can of worms with this one.
Probably.
um, I I do feel like nobody's play tested Salamence yet. I've seen a lot of Goodra. Naganadell's really good, and I like I want to give Salamence something that the other dragons don't, because I feel like whatever you want Salamence to do, you may as well just choose one of the other dragons. Um, and I think it's the only dragon we've added with a 4 times ice weakness as well. Um, oh. Wish is interesting. Whether Wish actually works or not is also another question.
I think with Wish, this is a very specific one because the other leaps in logic that we made are barely leap. They're barely hops. Like, oh yeah, ancient power, Yanmega. It's the same thing as what was it, Dragon Breath Naganadel? You needed to evolve.
Uh,
Makes sense. Electro Web, what was it called again? Vantula. Kind of like Headlong Rush for Great Tusk. It's not something that it's not a signature move, but you associate it most with it, and they would have had issues otherwise. So, we gave it to it. Wish on Salamence is probably the biggest leap we've done so far. And I am open to it. I'm definitely open to it. But with this one specifically, I think this time we're going to have to let the rest decide and see if they're okay with it first. And then we can, say yes to it. Since from the looks of it, we're all open to this. But I think this is one time we're going to have to let the server or the YouTube comments decide that one. Since otherwise, it might be a little too much of a stretch. But that's just me, though.
I'm okay with that. I would imagine most. I mean, I'll be honest. I think for the most part, if we ask most YouTube commenters, they'll probably just say yes to like almost everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But I'm okay with like letting them decide. We should we also let them decide Crobat getting Poison Jab and Gudra getting Dragon Claw as well?
yeah, I think Crobat this entire time has been an absolute roller coaster of emotions for me, because it's like, oh well, we need to give it a poison move. We need to give it an attacking move so that it can do something. Otherwise, it's just dead weight. And then Poison Jab was mentioned. I was like, yes, okay. It's not like super overpowered. It's not cross poison. And then come to find out later, Crobat, I don't think in any generation learns Poison Jab. And then it became this weird thing of, well, it's a poison type. Do we give the poison types Poison Jab because they're inherently poison types? Or do we give Pokemon Poison Jab because it's a move they learn, even if they're not a poison type? Like, Galvantula gets Poison Jab. So, Crobat's in a bit of a weird spot right now. I'd be happy for other people to have their input on Poison Jab.
We
Crobat.
we
Now that you
so should have
mentioned
just switched up
Galvantula
instead.
getting Poison Jab, that leads me to wonder, what about Pokemon with overlapping moves? Because I'm pretty sure I know it was another bug type that got Poison Jab. Was it It was either Golisopod or Armaldo. It was one of the two.
I
What if
definitely
they
know for a
got
fact
poison moves?
Golisopod
They
knows it.
probably.
I don't know about Armaldo. Wouldn't be surprised if it does. But
Okay,
let
well
me
that
check.
makes it very interesting because then at that point we can just call it like the overlapping moves clause or whatever the hell, where it's basically like this thing that's another type gets the move of this type. Like for example, something like Nidoking or Gengar, they're already poison types. Give them poison jabs, so what? But what if it's something like Galvantula or I think me and Shao, they get poison jab too. Do they get the move or do we just restrict it to poison types? Because if you ask me, we just restrict it per type so that it's just easier. Because at that point, it is damn near impossible to manage it. But I'll need you guys' take on that.
I think if Crobat is the only exception of a Pokemon that should get Poison Jab but doesn't, because it's already a poison type, and one that I think literally everyone unanimously feels bad for, I think it's going to be fine. And I think some Pokemon, such as maybe Minchao and definitely Golisopod, would really appreciate having the move. Especially since Golisopod has, like, doesn't even get, like, Hyper Beam or Earthquake. So I think it would definitely, at the very least, appreciate something to at least do good against Executor. And for the Pokemon that do get it, outside of, like, just Golisopod, or not even a Golisopod, just Minchao exactly, there aren't any Pokemon that weren't Poison Jab that can really break the move. In fact, one example I thought of that I think's really interesting is Rhydon. Rhydon gets Poison Jab, and while Substitute I still think is going to be very good, I think it's interesting to replace Body Slam with Poison Jab, because that could potentially give Rhydon a chance to hit Executor super effectively. I think as long as we just make Crobat the one exception, and we don't just give Poison Jab to every non-poison type, I think it's gonna be fine. And I'll even say that it'll make things way more interesting.
So is that poison types get Poison Jab, also Crobat?
Yeah, if I think
Or is that
all poison types I think should get Poison Jab, and if they happen to word it naturally in Gen 4, such as again Rhydon, or if it's a Pokemon like Galvantula or Golisopod, I don't think there's gonna be any harm in them having the move.
okay? Okay, that seems fair.
Cyber, what do you think?
I'm still on the fence about it. I'm 50-50 on the matter. So I'd say this is another thing. This one could be like just the server. I don't think the commenters need to get in on this one this time. This one could just be the server. Because really,
Alright.
as long as they're cool with it, then, what's the point in ruining their fun? Because
Mhm.
let's be real, I don't think Galvantula is going to use Poison Jab even if it had it. So really, it's more like Rhydon getting Poison Jab rather than Galisa or the Galvantula.
Yeah. If Minchao gets it though, that will be kind of relevant because
I don't think it's. Well, I mean, maybe against Executor. Well, actually, now that I think about it, it's basically just let's give it to this thing. It's going to give it a coverage against Executor, and nothing else matters, despite there being four whole ass bug types here.
yeah, that's like the funny part about Poison Jab and just Poison Stab as a whole. Poison you would imagine is pretty bad offensively, but being good against Executor exactly is just good enough.
Yeah, having an option against Executor, I'm a little worried for Executor in this. It's um it's going to be heavily team dependent on whether or not Executor's actually going to be a higher tier Pokemon in this season or not. We'll see how the bugs and the poisons fare out because Executor has a lot of good matchups against the fighting types, and it's bulky enough that it can deal with the dragon types in some form. Whereas the addition of poison and bug types, it can make Executor sweat a little bit, that's for sure.
Definitely for the
I think
bug
that's
types.
fine because I think it's fine since Alakazam suffered a lot in season one, and by suffer I mean Metagross made it almost not worth picking. So I think Executor having to work a little more for viability this time isn't really something I'm opposed to.
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah,
eh,
I like.
yeah.
I'm happy with. Oops, sorry.
You go first. You go first.
You go.
Oh,
Oh, wow, thank you.
hmm.
This delay is interesting. Where the I think having these certain seasons where like quote unquote mandatory OU Pokemon kind of get left by the wayside a bit because they either just don't compete as well against others of their type. Like Psychic is a very high demand type in Gen 1 as it is. And now that we've added so much variance, I think Alakazam and Starmie. I'm not sure about Jinx. Jinx could be interesting because of all the dragons, but Alakazam especially is going to look so much better compared to its season 1 counterpart because it is effectively the fastest Pokemon in the tier. You're tied with Sneasler and what else is 120 speed?
um, I don't know, but yeah, I do know you're wrong because
I can't think.
Crobat is 130 speed, and with Poison Jab, it will definitely be relevant. You should definitely fear Crobat. It won't just use Mimic and pray it gets like a Earthquake or something.
That is true. Base 90 attack isn't weak for Gen 1 standards at all. Like, Taurus is 100 attack, right?
Yeah.
So, like, an 80 base power stab off of a 90 attack, that's going to hit Alakazam pretty hard. But other than Crobat and Naganadel is going to be, it's 121 speed, but everything else, Alakazam can just come in and Psychic, Reflect, Recover. It doesn't have as much to fear as it did in Season 1. And it's not as outclassed in Season 1 either.
Mm-hmm.
Starmie is still going to be really good. Do we still think Starmie's going to be a glue?
100%. I think Starmie is definitely going to be the best Psychic type. I think if Sneeze was around, Alakazam will be used way more. But I feel like, and I'm just going to say when Sneasler gets inevitably banned, you're not going to feel as obligated to put Alakazam on every single team. And when that happens, I think Starmie is just going to clearly be like the best one. Because it has Psychic Sab. It pretty sure it outspeeds all of the fighting types anyways. But it's also going to have Blizzard for dragon types, Thunderbolts, or just maybe even Surf, since you can use that to hit Armaldo. I think, yeah, so I think Starmie, I think it's gonna easily still be like the fourth best Pokemon. I think the only thing that might be able to compete against it will be Gudra, and that's it.
Yeah, I was talking to Cyber about this before, about we might see a lot less Thunderbolt running around. Purely because I think people are going to be using dragon types a lot more. Um, I think Pokemon like Starmie, you're probably going to see more of like a Psychic Ice Beam Recover Thunder Wave. Psychic, obviously, you get the special drops, you get your stab, but it deals with the poisons. and the fighting types. That covers all the dragons and the flying types that are going to be around. You got
That's
Recover and Thunderwave, which are pretty standard. It feels like Thunderbolt as a move is probably going to be seen a little bit less. It's going to be a little less desirable.
you know, that's interesting because if that's the case, I still think we needed Electro Web to help Galvantula stand out, but now that you mention that, that makes Jolteon much worse. And if that's the case, that just gives even more reason to use Galvantula. Especially since, along with Electro Web, it'll also have Stab and Bug Bite. And Zapdos is literally not going to see any change whatsoever. Because even if Thunderbolt isn't as good, guess what? We're adding like 10 different like bug and fighting types combined. So Drill Peck is just going to be so goddamn useful this season.
I'm just looking up that bit now. Cyber, I think you and I are both in agreement that Moltres is probably going to do pretty damn good in Season 2.
The thing with Moltres is like in season 1, it was so easy to justify Moltres because you were using it for the things you use Moltres for, and you can't resist Leaf Blade from Sceptile, and you're one of the best answers to Metagross with Fire Spin utility. In season 2, it's a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, 3 of the bug types fear you, and Armaldo is neutral to you, and is still slower than you anyways. On the other hand, every single dragon type resists you, and Naganadel and Salamence outspeed you. Gudra is extremely bulky, and I don't know about the other two, but then there's the poison types, which, are a mixed bag. Like I said, it's a mixed bag.
What the
So Moltres is about the same, personally.
what the heck is Moltres gonna do against Walking Wake? That just sounds like a slaughter waiting to happen.
Nothing.
It's going to swap
Nothing.
out.
Like, I'll be real, I do
But
not have high hopes for Moltres in season 2. I think in season 1, Metagross was such an amazing Pokemon and such a big threat that obviously there was no reason why you wouldn't consider Moltres. Same with Sceptile. But I don't think any of the bug types are gonna just demand the same amount of like respect and attention as those two had. And if that's the case, and also even with the bug types, Armaldo and Golisopod aren't weak to fire. And Armaldo, I think, just wins either way. And if that's the case, Agility Fire Spin is still a win con, but Fire and Flying as a whole is just so much worse. There are so many different dragon types that can be a big threat to Moltres. There are so many different other Pokemon that outspeed it. And Fire Flying is just so bad defensively. Even if Thunderbolt is going to be less popular, I think Surf Storming will be a lot more popular just for Armaldo exactly. Or Moltres isn't like that. I think Jinx and other ice types are going to be better because the dragon types, Moltres isn't like that either. And while it does good against Vespiquen and Yon Mega, Galvantula I'm pretty sure is still faster and has electric coverage. And there's just so many things, even neutrally with Blizzard. I just don't see Moltres doing anything really. It just feels like there's too many negatives to really justify putting it on your team. Especially when it's mostly just super effective against Pokemon that, for the most part, you can probably handle with just neutral moves. Or just Annihilate. I'd rather go with Annihilate as a bug counter than Moltres in all honesty.
my thought process on this was I look at the meta and I look at all the new Pokemon that we've introduced. Other than the dragons, what wants to eat a Fire Blast? Like, sure, there's a lot of things that aren't weak to Fire Blast, but you're not going to switch anything in because one, that's a lot of damage, and two, Golisopod doesn't want to get burned. Armaldo doesn't want to get burned. Iron Hands doesn't want to get burned. Sneasler doesn't want to get. There's a lot of Pokemon that are not going to want to take the risk from a really strong Fire Blast. And, like, sure, a lot of the dragons are going to have Fire Blast, and it depends how popular those get. But having Moltres around just to either scare things out and fish for Fire Blasts, I think it might be a sleeper pick. I don't think it's going to be as good as Season 1, because Season 1, as we saw towards the end, it was bordering on being one of the top OU Pokemon. I think we decided it would probably be top 10 if it continued on its streak. But I think it's definitely going to be viable in Season 2, because I can see Moltres being out, and you're going to switch something into it, hoping you're going to be alright, and then you're burned, and you've effectively got a dead Pokemon. So, we'll
Yeah,
see.
unless I get a free burn on my Chansey and get immune to paralysis, that's gonna be really nice.
I mean, in terms of regular Gen 1 OU, there's not a lot that I really want to switch in the Fire Blast either. Like, you have, like, Chansey, Slowbro, and Starmie. But Fire Blast already hits a lot of things super hard. And there's already a lot of things that fear a burn in Gen 1, such as Snorlax, Tauros, and Rhydon. But obviously Moltres still isn't an OU Pokemon in just regular Gen 1. And while you're right, there's definitely more things that fear Fire Blast, and there's also more things that fear a burn. We're already predicting that Pokemon like Goodra are going to be so good to where it might even counter Starmie as like the top like 4 Pokemon potentially. And just Goodra alone, we know it's going to be everywhere. But there's also going to be Pokemon like Walking Wake, which has its own merits, and Salamence, and Naganadel. And a lot of the things that do fear it, like Sneasler, I also feel like just don't really suffer too much from just revenge killing it. So even if Moltres does kill something, there's a lot of things that can just take it out afterwards. And even if we ignore all of the weaknesses that Fire Flying gives you, it's also not the bulkiest thing in the world physically either. So I just think Moltres just has a lot of things that's to worry about. And while it's definitely not bad, you're right that if it's on the field, it definitely will be a big threat. But I feel like there's more consistent options, and you're more likely to win if you just use one of the dragon types with Fire Blast instead.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if you were to use Moltres, I don't think it would necessarily hold you back, but no, there is a lot going against it. So you might have convinced me that it's maybe not as good as I thought that it was.
We'll have to see. At the very least, though, even if it's probably I'm not gonna say worst. I'll be nice and I'll say Moltres is the weakest. I think the legendary birds as a whole are gonna be great in this season. I already think Zapdos, ironically because of its flying stab rather than electric, is gonna be great. And Articuno, oh boy, a 125 base special ice type with so many dragon types around. Oh, that's gonna be a monster.
Yeah, I can see Articuno, like, unironically, being one of the few Pokemon that do threaten Goodra. Like, threaten Goodra. It might be the Moltres Metagross pairing, but Articuno and Goodra, which might be interesting.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to say earlier when we were talking about Executor, because we were talking about how like we think bug types and poison types are going to give it a hard time. Bug types, absolutely. I think that's going to be Executor's biggest like a hurdle it needs to go over. But I think poison is like fairly even. Poison hurts Executor with poison jab, and it'll do good damage, especially if it's a crit. But Executor can also just threaten them back with psychic of its own. and it has high special. Not to mention, it's bulky, and I feel like with even just a 55% base speed, it already has a pretty decent crit rate. So, just something I would just want to get off my chest. I think Executor bug types are going to be big, super scary for it, but I think the poison weakness is going to be very manageable. But speaking of
Yeah,
poison,
no, I think
yeah,
yeah, no, I was gonna say that Executor is by no means frail. Like, if you've got a full HP Executor, you're more or less still free to kind of do what you want to do. I just think Executor is going to have to worry at a higher percent than it would normally. Like, most of the time, Executor will sit at like 35, 40%, and it'll still feel pretty safe. You could probably get one more turn in, but I think now it'll probably sit at about 60, 70%, and you'll start have to playing it a lot more safely than you initially might have done before.
mm,
By no means bad. I just think you'll have to play it a bit more safe and maintain the HP a lot more.
that's true. And speaking of poison jab, I think I think we've like stalled long enough. I think it's finally time to talk about the weasel in the room, Sneasler. Oh boy.
Yes, Cyber and I are very opinionated on this one.
I think I am too.
My
Like,
God,
but I
dude.
think like my reasonings are going to be very different from your guys's. But what's up, Cyber? Go first.
If you guys have not been on the server, you will not understand the struggle that Zach and Theus and I put to argue with the masses, to see our viewpoint on why Dire Claw is, for all intensive purposes, the move that breaks Sneasler. Because when we look at Sneasler, fast, frail, has sword stance, nothing we can't handle. Ride-on switches into like a poison jab. It's taking like 20%. It's taking like 20% at most. Maybe a low kick is hitting it pretty hard, but there's always a way you can play around Sneasler. But now imagine if instead of poison jab, 80 base power by the way, same as Dire Claw, sub it for Dire Claw. So let me give you a hypothetical example. You have an unboosted Sneasler. So you switch into Annihilate. It's immune to fighting, and it resists poison. I take my Annihilate, it takes a quarter damage, and it gets paralyzed. On top of Annihilate taking a quarter damage, which is already, a sacrifice it has to take, it's now just worse at existing, and Sneasler can do that on top of casting Sleep. And this is something I mentioned a few times. The biggest counter to Dire Claw is Sleep Claws. Because if you really think about it, if something gets put to sleep, you're getting minimum one free sword stance from that. Even if they wake up the very next turn, you got one free sword stance off of that. And they couldn't do anything about that. And Dire Claw does this consistently. If you get poisoned, well, you're just taking extra chip damage, which for a wall breaker that can boost with sword stance, that's already a bit of a problematic thing. Because there are a few poison types, Sneasler is one of them, that wouldn't mind spreading paralysis. If you get paralyzed, that's even worse because now you're slower than it if you're, faster. And you also have a chance to just do nothing if you tank the hit. And if you get put to sleep, oh, it's just GG's. This is why Zach and Theus and I have fought to ban Dire Claw as hard as we have. Because the logic is that Sneasler already has a good poison stat and poison jab, which is already the same base power as Dire Claw with a 30% chance to poison, as opposed to Dire Claw's 50% chance, which factoring in paralysis and sleep is like 16%, 17. I actually don't know the exact calc. So it already has a good poison move right there, so it doesn't even need Dire Claw. Because if Dire Claw doesn't proc anything, well, okay, you just did decent damage. But if it does proc something, you're just done. Like, it's over. At best, you're losing a Sneasler counter. At worst, you just lost on the spot. So, sorry for the rambling, but I needed to get that off my chest.
No, it's fine. I like it. Like it's unironically better for the video if you guys are just like super passionate about what you talk about. But here's what I gotta say. I don't think Dire Claw is the main problem. I think Sneasler itself is a super problematic Pokemon. Let's say we do get rid of Dire Claw and we just give it Poison Jab. Guess what? Make Even if Dire Claw was just a vanilla move and there wasn't Poison Jab, it would still be so broken on Sneasler because Poison is actually just a good offensive type in this gen. And with 120 speed, sword stands, and just the perfect coverage, Sneasler is a massive threat that is very unreasonable to deal with on the board, regardless of when it gets sent in. Hyper Beam is just fantastic. Even without a sword stance, you have Alakazam's crit rate, so like Chansey or any physically frail Pokemon fears to stay in. Alakazam as a counter is mostly secure. Having a speed tie and just having a great chance for Sneasler to get a crit with Hyper Beam makes the entire thing a big gamble. Low kick is just great for the normal types, faster than Tauros, and with a great crit rate, even without Sword Stance, it can just do very stupid damage. I don't know how much it actually does, but considering like a super effective low kick is basically hitting with neutral Earthquake, I imagine it just does absolutely insane damage to Snorlax and Tauros, along with a 30% chance to flinch, which in turn also just makes Rhydon very annoyed to deal with Sneasler. And like you guys said with Dire Claw, if you get a Sleep Clause, you might just get a free Source Stance and just win the game on the spot. And even just getting Paralysis in of itself is pretty great, because electric types are going to be not as strong. So it might be the main way you're spreading Paralysis, and Paralysis in of itself could get you a free turn. And along with all of that, regardless if it's Dire Claw or if it's Poison Jab, Poison gives you super effective coverage, which means Executor fears you, and it means the bug types fear you. Not to mention a poison fighting combination means you only take bug neutrally. So while we were talking about Annihilate being a pretty good like bug counter, that's not going to be a thing if Sneasler's in the format, as it can always very safely switch into a bug move and just kill it on the spot. Not to mention being 120 speed will inherently make most of the other fighting types, other than maybe Iron Hands, just less valuable. Because Sneasler is just faster, it's more immediately threatening against basically everything in the format, and along all of that, it can Sword Stance, or it can just get hacks with Dire Claw. So I think it's not just Dire Claw that's the problem. Sneasler itself is a very problematic Pokemon that inherently makes the bug types worse off, it makes the other fighting types worse off, and it makes the poison types worse off. It's just too powerful for this format, and I think it just needs to go, regardless if on Dire Claw itself.
Hmm. See, I'm a bit more on the fence about Sneasler itself being ban worthy, but you make a pretty good point that I think I'm going to drop the first hard swear of the video. Fuck Diaclaw. this isn't this isn't your namby pamsy Gen 9 Diaclaw, where it's a mild annoyance and it was banned pretty much unanimously. This is Gen 1 Diaclaw, where sleep can last 8 turns and paralysis drops your speed to 25%. This is the most unfun, and I know a bunch of OU players have just shivered on the spot at the thought of being put to sleep for 8 turns from Diaclaw. Because let's say you've got the Sneasler Alakazam speed tie, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna risk it. Sneasler Diaclaws does 70%, paralyzes your Alakazam. You lose out on that. Yeah, you lose the turn because you're paralyzed. Right, okay, I've got to switch out. Your only option to switch out, okay, I've got Rhydon in the back, or you've got Cloyster in the back. So you switch out to tank the hit. Maybe you take, 6 to 13%, and you're put to sleep. And you're like, oh, okay, well, now my counter's just been put to sleep on the spot. What else can you do? You just automatically lose, and it's just a really unfun. Cyber and I did a test where he had a level 50 Sneasler, and I had 6 level 100 Runerigus, and we just swapped around, basically, just to see how annoying it would be. Almost every single switch, paralysis proc, sleep proc, poison proc. And in Gen 1, where switching is really important, it's it's kind of a really unfair move. So I think because I know Ground you wanted to do a week's testing of Diaclaw. I think all three of us are kind of in agreement that Diaclaw is a problem, and that Sneasler itself might be the one that need to have the week's test without Diaclaw.
All right, so I'm gonna chime in just at the last second here. I know there was a couple of tests that the members of the Discord server were doing. We were doing a couple of tests. Isaac and Theus, the others, just playing for fun, experimenting with the new meta a little bit. I remember off the top of my head, it was 3 replays where I saw Sneasler, and all 3 of those replays, which were just standard Season 2 gameplay, but they were practice matches, all 3 of those times were realistic settings where Direclaw proc sleep, and all 3 of them failed just because of sleep clause. In those positions, and that's just on a practice game. Imagine if it was in a real tournament. Because we're looking at Sneasler in a vacuum. We're not even factoring Sneasler with the rest of its team.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I think Sneasler would make people genuinely angry. If you lose to Sneasler, it's probably worse than losing to trapping BS, because you're in the finals, you're in the grand finals, and your opponent's got Sneasler, you don't have Sneasler, and then that situation plays out like I discussed before. They've only got Sneasler, you've got Alakazam and Rhydon. You lose the speed tie, Alakazam gets paralyzed, you switch into Rhydon, it's put to sleep. Sneasler just automatically wins from a position it should have lost. And it's just infuriating to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Much to Zastali's disagreement on this topic, I think yeah, I think Diaclaw just shouldn't be allowed. And at a push, I think we could give Sneasler a grace week, if you will. We'll try Sneasler without Diaclaw and see if it's more manageable, but I'm not opposed to it kind of just going.
I
Yeah,
still
and
feel.
this is another thing. It's because with Poison Jab, if you hit a poison type with Poison Jab, there's no poison chance. If you hit Dire Claw on a poison type, you can still proc these moves. So even poison types don't naturally check Sneasler. Not like you would use Toxapex to counter Sneasler anyways, but the fact that you don't even have the option is already a problem.
Oh, by the way, Toxapex and Koitsire, however you say it, they technically exist in this season. Moving on.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. They
yeah.
are Pokemon.
But yeah, I still feel
Make
like,
Clotsire work, just you watch.
oh yeah, like Sneasler when it has to beat Amnesia Koitsire.
It's not Clot over. Not yet it is.
But yeah, I still feel like Sneasler, even without Dire Claw, is still a very annoying and scummy Pokemon. Because with 120 speed, even if you have Poison Jab instead, well, it's definitely more manageable with, like poison types existing in the meta. I still feel like it's very, you take it out on the field without very little effort on your part, and Sneasler can just basically get away with so many free kills it logically shouldn't. And the sad reality is that since Alakazam and Poison types are the only thing that kind of check it, you don't. What reason do you have not just to use like Sneasler and like just multiple different like psychic types basically? Because Sneasler itself can just very easily sweep entire teams on its own, and with perfect coverage of low kick, or any poison move and hyper beam, it can just crit even without a like status affection and just take games where it probably shouldn't. And I also want to mention that typically like complex bans are usually kind of frowned upon. Like when Annihilate was banned, they didn't just like ban Rage Fist, they banned the Pokemon itself. And I know like Primeape with the move was fine, but I feel like since Sneasler is already a very annoying Pokemon, a very powerful Pokemon that even without Dire Claw will probably make the other bug and fighting types less viable, it very well may make the meta more centralizing in a bad way. It just seems like a Pokemon that's going to make people mad no matter what. So I feel like it might just be easier and more logical just to ban the Pokemon itself instead of doing a complex ban for Dire Claw.
Yeah, I'm not against that at all. Like, even Metagross wasn't this
Impressive.
controversial. Yeah, it wasn't. You couldn't slap it into the meta and then it was a BS way to win if you had Metagross. Like, it was workable around, but it was just strong. Whereas Sneasler, it's just no. So I think I'd be okay with the ban.
Not as
There's
bad as
another
Dire
thing with
Claw.
Sneasler. It's like,
Imagine if Metagross had Meteor Mash though.
yeah, go on.
Like, if Metagross had Meteor
Auto
Mash, it
banned.
would basically be the same thing in a way.
Yeah, because you just agility Meteor Mash, and then you just like it would be the best lead, and then it would just sweep the rest of the team. There'd just be nothing you could do.
Because that's the thing with Sneasler. Because it's kind of like the Metagross thing, but with none of the silver linings, the shades of gray, that made Metagross fine. Because the way we adapted to Metagross was just using things we already had. Because like obviously Rhydon was bulky enough to just square up with the metal, and then you had Moltres who rose up from NU like the majestic phoenix it is to stop the whatever it is to keep it in check, and Sceptile too, but mostly Metagross. So, and not to mention, pretty much everything else simply just adapted around it. Like, oh, Tauros already like Fire Blast for so and so. Well, now it also has Metagross on top of that. Same thing with other special attackers. And then there was also, other things. It's not that Metagross was necessarily overpowered, because in some sense it basically was. We ranked it second place for a reason. But the difference was that checking Metagross was beyond reasonable. It wasn't unfair, and Metagross couldn't just win on the spot. With Sneasler, we're arguing to keep Sneasler, period, and that's without Dire Claw. Because if we're talking about Sneasler with Dire Claw, it's not even if it's counterable, because there are checks, like Zamazenta is a big one off the top of my head. That's a big check to it, probably the best one. But then that's the thing. You have to prioritize Sneasler over the rest of the metagame. So like Ground was alluding to, it's kind of warping the tier around itself, and to a lesser extent Dire Claw, because the opponent doesn't sure as hell doesn't need to use sleep, because that means they can proc sleep on Dire Claw. Whereas they don't need to. That's the thing that makes Sneasler different. And mind you, Sneasler is a frail attacker. Once you actually hit it, you're hitting it pretty hard. So it's kind of like if Hisuian Zoroark was as good as Metagross and could BS its way out of a loss.
Yep.
That's not cool.
And you know what else? You know what else is just like the cherry on the top? Sneasler, just because of how BS Dire Claw is, and because of a sweep chance, if you really wanted to, you could even use it as a lead. And if you hit the lead Pokemon, and it gets hit with Dire Claw and gets put to sweep, and you get a free Sword Stance up, Sneasler just like on like turn like 3 or 4 can already just win the game for you. Because if you put something to sleep and you get Sword Stance off, you are gonna do significant damage even if your opponent like plays perfectly around it. Which is very, very hard to do because Sneasler, even if it like puts something to sleep, oh guess what? It can just use Dire Claw and maybe paralyze Rhydon? That sounds fair, doesn't it?
I think that might be the scariest thing you've said all video. I didn't even consider lead Sneasler. That is terrifying.
You don't even need to, because that's the thing. You can just go with another lead and just use Sneasler as like an early game wall breaker. It's just the fact that you can do it is already so ridiculous. Say what you will about Metagross, lead Metagross was not meta.
Like,
It's too strong. I think we can all agree. Should we make the council decision now? Sneasler
I'm just going.
in Generation Jumble history is the first Pokemon to get banned.
like I'm just gonna
Yep.
say this, like when it comes to like the whole like give it a week, that's only a worst case scenario. I think a more realistic outcome, and I'm gonna be real, my preferred outcome is for everyone to test it out day one, be like, wow, this shit sucks. I don't want this anymore. And we just emergency ban it as soon as possible.
Yeah, because we're gonna keep Sneasler here, but Dire Claw, no, we're not making the exception. We are quick banning Dire Claw immediately, and we are suspect testing Sneasler. And by suspect test, I mean give Sneasler its final prayers and hope it doesn't get banned. Because from the way this thing is, I don't think anyone's gonna enjoy fighting this thing. It's like Sceptile, but with more luck on its side. It's like Sceptile if it can crit.
Like,
Yeah,
it would be so goddamn funny if we quick ban or emergency ban Dire Claw, but then Sneasler gets like it's just so overwhelming that it gets quick banned again. Imagine how funny it would be if not just the first ban in Generation Jump like history, but maybe even the first Pokemon Showdown Pokemon to just get quick banned twice in just like the same week.
it gets the double ban hammer.
Please
That
let
would be
it
the
happen.
funniest thing
It
ever.
would be so funny.
Oh man, like Sneasler will just
And
be
then-
remembered for years as just like one of the worst like war criminals ever.
Against the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, like Sneasler honestly is kind of just against the Geneva Convention. Yeah. Like,
Should we
let's not
I've got a
forget
list
like
of all of the
Hmm?
oh, yeah, I was gonna say I've got a list of all of the Pokemon that we're adding. I was gonna say, should we go through and like kind of give our quick thoughts on how we feel the Pokemon might do?
Let's go with factions first.
I mean,
Yeah, because
I'd
I've got them
rather we
here
just
in
go over
Fighting Poison Bug
factions.
and Dragon.
I'd rather go over factions because I feel like I would rather like potentially all three of us, but I think well, let's be real. When we went over all the Pokemon in season 1, that took what did that take? Like 2 hours almost. It's going to take a long time if we
Yeah, I
went
think
over
an hour
every
and a half.
individual Pokemon. And while a lot of them we've already given our basic thoughts on, that's still like
And then
what?
Sneasler got a whole ass thesis on it.
Yeah, but isn't that still like 25 Pokemon? I feel we're going to be here a while. I'd rather we just had a separate video just predicting our viability rankings for the Pokemon. So I'm okay with us going over
that's
just them
fair.
like as groups, you know, like poison, fighting, bug, dragon.
Okay, so let's start with one of the more interesting groups. I think is going to be Bug. Bug, I think, is going to be. It's a very mixed bag, and they're all quite niche. I don't think any will excel, but I think they could be quite fun to see.
I would agree. Which I think it's kind of sad. I don't know, if we just go with the actual poison types being added, and the Gonadel is more so going to be good for its dragon typing. Sneasler could be a freaking typeless Pokemon, and it would still get banned. So while Quagsire and Toxapex are by far going to be the worst Pokemon, Poison on its own, especially with Gengar getting a buff and Nidoking also getting a buff since they can now hurt grass types. Poison's gonna be pretty good. Obviously, Fighting and Dragon are gonna be good as well. I think Bug is only gonna be okay, even with Bug Bite, which I think is sad. Because when I thought of this season, I was mostly thinking of buffing the Bug type, but I think even with new Pokemon added, it's still probably gonna be the weakest type in Gen 1. The only thing that might be worse is maybe Grass, since having Poison and Bug Stab is definitely very annoying for it.
Yeah, I think Bug might be in a good place because I don't think we want Bug to be strong. You know, it doesn't feel very buggy to be strong. But looking at Armaldo, Vespiquen, Yanmega, Golisopod, Galvantula, none of them do the same thing. You could fit a bug Pokemon on your team and have it do something at least entertaining. Maybe other than Yanmega. None of them are inherently bad, but I think they could be fun to see. Whereas, Poison is held up basically by Naganadel. Crobat with Poison Jab could be a contender for pretty okay late game Pokemon. Better than it was, that's for sure. Fighting is an absolutely roided out type. Iron Hands and Zamazenta being basically unkillable. Rage Fist being Rage Fist. Annihilate being much better this season. Mian Shao being pretty decent. And Dragon having, again, Naganadel. Goodra, which a lot of people are considering it might be a contender for Big 3. Axorus being one of the better wall breakers this season, and Walking Wake being, I think, one of the strongest special attackers in this season.
Yeah, I'm pretty
If not,
sure
probably
with
one of the Hydro Pump, yeah.
yeah, Hydro Pump exactly. But even Dragon Claw is going to hit pretty decently hard, especially with how fast it is.
It's a really interesting mix.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bug being weaker, but probably more entertaining to play with. You have to have a better skill to play the Bug type than you do to play Sneasler, for example. um, but yeah, the poison types, I think they've suffered a lot because Clodzire's mid, Amoonguss is bad, Toxapex is bad.
Holy shit, I forgot Amoonguss was in this season.
I'm
Yes.
convinced we added it just to make Zasterly happy.
Ooh, and even Zasterly
and-
might not remember it exists. You know what? I'm actually fine.
She will
I'm
now.
gonna laugh so much.
I think Amoonguss existing, I'm happy about that because I think that might be the final nail in the coffin to say that Grass is technically a weaker type than Bug. So let's go. Bug will actually beat the worst type allegations, and it's all because Asteroid has bad taste in Pokemon.
Listen, okay, you can make fun of Zasterly for suggesting Amoonguss, but to be fair, I suggested Clodsire because he was the GOAT. At least Clodsire is actually going to be using Poison Jab to decent effect because Earthquake is going to be resisted by Exeggutor. That's more than Toxapex can say.
Oh yeah, also Toxic
Cyber,
Spikes are going to be in the format. I think they're
yeah,
going to be forgotten
I don't
very
think anyone's
quickly.
going to use it, but
Yeah, no one's going to use it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
just thought I should remind you guys that technically, if you wanted to make a big solo team and you want to keep setting up poison toxic spikes, you can do that. if you want to like have poison be your win con and pray to God the opponent doesn't have a fellow Pokemon that's a poison type, you can do that. Like Big Stall,
Yeah, that's also Sneasler.
yeah, Caesar too. The fact you could just have Big Stall, just 5 bulky Pokemon, and you just have Sneasler on top of. God damn, I hate this Pokemon.
I I was talking with Cyber just for a little earlier on. We already crafted Zastali's team for. We've got Raichu, Toxapex, Amoonguss, Poliwrath, Cypher, and probably Goodra if Sneasler gets banned.
Eradicate.
If
I don't know.
like that's what Zastali's cooking with this season, and I hope she feels called out.
Like Zastali can take this an insult if she wants. She probably won't. But when I look at Sneasler, I think to myself, that's probably what Zastali would look like if she was a Pokemon.
No.
Like I
no.
I just heard like Cyber just
Girl
like
boss.
he started saying no, but then his audio cut out. So just the mere idea of Zastali being a Sneasler just like broke reality for him.
Absolutely, it deleted from existence. He got snapped.
Yeah,
No.
like
I refuse to view my I refuse to view my homie and my rival as a Sneasler. That's too far, even for you, and you know it.
when Cyber realizes his rival is a fucking Sneasler, guess I'm gonna kill myself.
So I'm retiring. Robot can take my spot. I'm retiring.
Oh,
No, actually,
this
to be
is
fair, we're training him. Well, let's just say he's gonna kick your ass in this tournament. Just you watch.
He's Robo
It's not
Plush
Robover
already
yet.
has a 100% win streak against me. So if anything, I think he's trading you
Yeah.
too.
yeah. I got a message from Plush, I think, and he was like, how does it feel knowing I just 3-0'd ground back? And I was like, did he make an alt account or something? And then it turns out you just got shit stomped 3-0. That was quite funny.
I mean, to be fair, with both of the Generation 1 games we played, technically you could argue both of them being hacks. Because for the first game, he ended up winning because he got 2 crits in a row. And I flat out said to him, that's my fault. I kind of I considered that, but I didn't play on the crit. So I call that a skill issue. In the second game, I believe I got paralyzed 4 times in a row. In the first game we played was Gen 9 OU, which, so I just fucking hate that tier. So I technically all of his wins are with an asterisk, but I'm letting him have his fun. But I do legitimately hope I do face him in the tournament.
I say win is a win. That you got 3-0'd, swept, and you're under the rug. And I think RoboPlus should get the channel now.
Thanks. First of all, a hollow victory is still a victory nonetheless. Says so in the title. And second of all, I don't care who wins this tournament. I just want you to lose.
Yeah, after season 1, I expect to see ground back. To anybody in the Discord, anybody in the YouTube comments, whoever is going to be part of this tournament, we need to get ground back into the losers bracket. Okay? That's just the goal.
The losers bracket ain't enough.
I
want him utterly humiliated.
I kind of disagree with that. I don't really think me being losers bracket is a part of my goal. In fact, I'm going to say it's not even part of my to-do list. Not even on my bucket list. It's something that I hope never happens for as long as I live. Because that would require me to, take, most likely multiple L's. Which just does not work for me, in all honesty.
That just gave off, we the police have looked into the police's actions and we've decided the police are really good.
I mean,
it's yeah, okay, we know you don't want to lose.
but absolutely not. You think I'm the type of person that would go to Cyber's apartment and I'm like, okay, I have a feeling you're probably suspicious, so I'm just going to arrest you. I know you have good points, but I'm right. You're wrong.
Does sound
I,
like
I,
that kind
ag-
of person.
I agree about Sneasler, but I'm doxing you anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Sneasler is bad,
Uh,
but like, you still seem like statistically you're more likely to be like suspicious, so you still have to come with me in the custody.
Oh no, it's over.
it is over.
Yeah.
No annihilation for this season.
No, like
But
it's just like someone just asked Cyber, "Did you finally beat Groundback?" Yes. At what cost? I used Sneasler and I got the lucky sleep.
and then that would be terrible because we
Yeah.
we we all know we're all gonna cry in the server. You were the chosen one
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It like
he was supposed to defend us from the Sneasler
yeah.
allegations.
Yeah, for like any match, it's like
I'm
I
killing
won the
him.
matchup. No, Robo, you didn't win the matchup. Sneasler did.
He's low
No.
one. we if Sneasler somehow makes it through the allegations and it ends up on the winning team, can we put Sneasler in the council?
Like, we're gonna do that.
That would
Yeah, we're gonna put Sneasler and we're gonna put like Robo, Shelly, Myrox, Woodwee, anyone that is incestually. And also, just as the tournament
Oh,
goes
come
on, I'm gonna
on.
like get rid of like the usernames. If anyone wins with Sneasler, I'm just gonna put Sneasler in the tournament bracket instead. And by the time we get to the end of it, it's
I
just
would
gonna
like
be
to
a whole
call
bunch of
my.
Sneaslers facing each other.
I would like to. Okay, if we're gonna change our nicknames, I would like to name myself Billy Bob Joe in advance. No
Hmm.
reason in particular. I just thought Kid Me thought it was funny, and now I have to live the legacy.
Okay, but if you want to keep that nickname, that means you can't use Sneasler. So that means it's just gonna be
Fine.
Billy Bob Joe against the world, except the world is Sneasler. And like, you know that
Billy
meme where
Bob
it's
Joe
like,
Storyline.
solos the verse.
yeah, you know the meme where it's just the two astronauts and one of them has the gun. It's like we just edit that to where we just replace the Earth with just Sneasler's head. And just wait, it's all dominated around Sneasler. Always has been.
Always that's cuts to Cyber, and it's like the movie 300, and it's just all Sneasler's faces, and Cyber's just like amongst heaven and earth.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
and he Gojo's everybody. Right. Let's have we got anything else we wanna finish up on? Because this was the most rambly, off topic thing that we've done so far. What have we got any particular notes we want to hit?
I think there's one more thing that we need to talk about. I know, like we already decided that like the fates of Salamence and Poison Jab Crobat will be decided by the community, and that's gonna be the same thing for Dragon Claw Gudra. And that's the last thing we should probably talk about. Gudra. One, should it be about Dragon Claw? And two, are we thinking it's gonna be like Sneasler except it's fair?
Um, so just quickly for anybody who is like, why it's just got Dragon Pulse. Uh, Dragon Pulse is going to be Nagana Dell's signature because it requires it to evolve. All the other dragon types, amongst things like Aerodactyl and Charizard and stuff, they're going to be getting Dragon Claw instead. Um, so just because I know we're going to get a question just saying, why don't you just give it Dragon Pulse?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's. I don't think it'll make much difference for Gudra to have Dragon Claw because um, it's got Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Blizzard, Earthquake. I think it has Earthquake in Gen 6. Um, it's it's got the coverage that it needs. I don't think it needs Dragon Claw. You know,
Yeah. I
the
don't
only
think it
thing
needs
that
it
you're going to
either.
use,
If I
yeah,
think someone commented, I'm pretty sure Dragon Pulse, not Dragon Claw, like on stab does as much damage as a neutral Blizzard. So Dragon Claw, I think it's just ever so slightly weaker. Probably not a big deal when it comes to like damage calcs. But I think you're right that it doesn't really need Dragon Claw. However, there is one case where Dragon Claw is relevant, and that's just for Walking Wake exactly. I think Gudra having Dragon Claw will be a huge factor in deciding how good Walking Wake is. Because Naganadel can like check it either way, sure. But Haxorus and Salamence, not so much. So if Gudra can only hit Walking Wake neutrally, when it's the dragon type that can by far put up the best fight because of how tanky it is, Dragon Claw I think will decide how good Walking Wake is from a good Pokemon to potentially even an excellent Pokemon.
For reference, a little while ago I did test because Dragonite's going to be getting Dragon Claw too. I put in Walking Wake and Dragonite. If they just spam Dragon Claw against each other, they effectively do the same damage, but Walking Wake comes out on top. So, in terms of like, uh, Walking Wake is the highest special attack of all the dragons we've added, right? 125, whereas
Yeah.
everything else is probably like 110 or below.
Mm-hmm.
It does make up for its lack in bulk compared to the other dragons. So, well, and then you've got Naganadel, which is Naganadel's 127, right? Special attack.
Basically the same thing, but more frailer. Also, I'm only now realizing that we agree we're going to like talk about like all of the types and sections. We only talked about bug, and then we were so close to wrapping this up. But I guess we're talking about the dragon types now. ADHD is normal. You should definitely have it. If you don't have it already.
Yeah. That is just the Discord server.
Yeah. We have ADHD and we have autism. And if you don't, like Zach and Thea's here, it won't stay like that for long.
No, I think I've contracted autism.
Yeah, we're based like that. But yeah, anyways, Walking Wake though, yeah, like Onodale is faster, but also with it being more frail, that inherently just makes it a less consistent count to the Walking Wake, just because there's a lot of things that can potentially kill it. And even though Dragon Claw is just 80 base power, that's still basically the same base power as Body Slam, and 109 speed is pretty much just Tauros' speed and crit rate as well. So even if we just ignore Hydro Pump, which just quite frankly absurd levels of damage no matter what, even just Dragon Claw, just like Walking Wake's gonna crit a lot, and it's not like Gen 6 or even like Gen 5 or 4. There's no steel types either. There is nothing in the format that wants to take a critical Dragon Claw. So, I think Dragon Claw is important just for that. However, I don't think Walking Wake is gonna be like busted or overpowered if, like Gudra can't just be a super consistent counter to it. I'm like, I don't care either way whether like how good Walking Wake is. In all honesty, I just want to see Salamence do something.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Salamence fitting in somewhere because Haxorus is your physical attacker, Gudra is your special bulk, Walking Wake is your faster special attacker, and Naganadel is again the faster special attacker. So Salamence is struggling a little bit for a reason.
Yeah,
But it might be worth the trade-off in, the Haxorus versus Salamence thing. Like, maybe it's worth the trade-off for a little less damage, or a bit more speed, and a bit more bulk. So, we might see a weird interaction like that, but yeah, it's going to be weird.
or you say a bit more
Kind
bulk,
of
but that's with a bit of an
Hydra-y.
asterisk because it has the flying typing.
Yes, yeah. Oh, Salamence.
I really, really hope the community and the Discord server is fine with Wish, because that's the only thing I think that can give Salamence a real chance. Even then, like, Wish, it won't even be that busted. like having like a way to heal your other Pokemon. That sounds like it's very good, but there's no protect, and also Salamence is a dragon flying type, where other dragon types can just dragon better. So even with Wish, it might just fall off, which is just very sad.
Wish pass to like Chanty or something.
Yeah, you can Wish
I was
past the
thinking wish pass
Chansey.
to like Exeggutor or Taurus.
Yeah, no, those are gonna be a big deal. In fact,
Oh,
I think especially for Exeggutor, because Exeggutor
Yeah.
sometimes runs Leech Seed or Mega Drain just for recovery, which is very mid. But Salamence would wish Exeggutor would absolutely love that. It wouldn't even be that busted, since both of them just give you a very glaring ice weakness.
Yeah. I think having Wish is going to be interesting because I think it does give, like we said, Pokemon like Exeggutor, Tauros, I'm thinking Zapdos, uh, Pokemon that could appreciate the free 50% but don't get it. It kind of keeps them a bit more in balance. Whereas if you like Tauros with like even 1 or 2 soft boileds, like I don't know,
Hmm.
Gudra getting a wish pass, you know,
What is Salamance's
it's like
base HP?
it's either 90 or 100, so it's not small.
would be using
Yeah, not
Gen 3
small,
Wish.
but it's
And the
also
way
not like
Wish works in Gen 3
oh
is it always gives you half HP.
half HP regardless of what the base health is.
Precisely.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Ooh.
That is way more relevant than I thought. I thought it would just be healing like half of Salamance's HP. I was just thinking to myself, well, that'll give Chansey some good health, but like doesn't seem too broken. But no, if you can just consistently just heal Snorlax or Chansey just from half, okay, that actually is way stronger than I originally thought.
Yeah, next turn heals 50% of the recipient's max HP. So yeah, it entirely depends what you switch into, but it's basically a soft boil for everything.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, but you're still using Salamence, so I don't see it. Okay, it's not gonna be a. I don't think it'll be a full-on problem like Sneasler, but that's super super strong. Okay,
Yeah, that
now I don't know how
that's
to
a
feel.
niche.
I'm now very conflicted because like
I think
adding Wish might not be worth it if what you're really doing is just making Snorlax and Chansey more consistent.
yeah, but I mean, like we've seen, like with some of the fighting types, they're able to just either 2-hit KO or 1-hit KO those anyway. So maybe it's not that strong, but
Mm.
we'll see.
Fighting types right now and just see what they're cooking.
Yep.
Because with the fighting type, it's basically just going to boil down to Annihilate, the best in terms of like defensive typing, Iron Hands, and I guess Zamazenta.
Oh my god, Iron Hands and Zamazenta
HP.
getting a free wish.
And then
Oh.
you got we got Mian Shao, Best Stab, Sneasler, War Criminal, wanted in 30 states.
Uh,
Only 30.
Yes, it's even wanted by the aliens.
Sneasler is just like Sneaslers can't even go to the Middle East. Like they have a bounty on their head. Uh, okay,
Oh, poor
but
Sneasler. Can't catch a break.
Like if Iron Hands is like a regular criminal, then Sneasler is a war criminal.
yeah, like if Iron Hands is just like let's say he's like a drug dealer, Sneasler is more like someone that casually bombs like multiple schools and somehow gets away with it because with that freaking 120 speed.
An absolute
Instead of
menace to
girl bossing
society.
around.
Yeah,
Girl
actually,
bossing or gatekeep girl bossing all the police.
yeah. I will say though, outside of fighting types problem area, I think as a whole they will be by far the most fair and balanced out of all the types we're adding. Bug type will be probably a little underpowered. Poison, I think will be very strong. Not so much for the new Pokemon, because I don't think the Gonadel will get a lot of use out of Poison Jab. But like, with Pokemon like Gengar, you're gonna feel its impact. Dragon is just strong all around, with nothing to really that wants to switch into it. Meanwhile, fighting, it's gonna be very strong. The niche it has is very important and something that only fighting can do. But its weaknesses to, psychic or just frailty in general, it's gonna make it feel more balanced, and it's gonna make it feel how Game Freak originally intended for the fighting type to be in Gen 1, but failed because they thought, oh yeah, Hitmonchan, that needs 35 special. What if Ice Punch actually does damage?
Oh, wait. I'm since we're talking about the fighting types, I'm excited to see the Iron Hands video because it the, I'm actually like considering that might be one of the big three at the end of the season two. Like, if I was gonna say between now and the end of season two, we do our tier list. I suspect Gudra and or Iron Hands probably gonna be in the big three. If not Gudra, probably Naganadel. But I've got really high hopes for Iron Hands being big three material.
Um, he very well might. I think the only thing that might hold Iron Hands back is the fact that it has low kick and not submission, brick break, or anything else. Low kick is a very weak move. However, I think ironically, you still might want to use that. Even though it only hits as hard as a neutral earthquake, you have a speed tie with Chansey. So the idea of you getting that 30% chance to flinch on a speed tie is just really funny. And while it's very small and niche, might be optimal.
It's like, to put it into context, Iron Hands has 140 base attack, and sure, low kick has kind of low base power, but like, I'll just quickly do it now. If I give Machamp 140 base attack, low kick, and I put it against Snorlax, 34 to 40%. So it's not weak, and that's not even considering you've got a sword stance up, 68 to 80%. That's not taking into consideration any other factors. Low kick itself is more than enough. It's not going to need brick break, that's for sure. It's going to be a scary Pokemon. That's all I know. So
Yeah, I think low kick will actually make it pretty balanced. Because I think even with submission, it might just hit so goddamn hard and just have so much HP that, like, not that like it can't be countered, but it would be a little too unfair against the normal types. So I think it's gonna be fine.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can risk the miss.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But does this make
Yeah,
me realize I should probably make a Hariyama video? Because I'm assuming Hariyama probably does get submission. So Hariyama would, yeah, even if with like the normal, like the
Does it get
weaknesses,
meditate or even sword stance?
I think it might.
It
I don't
does
know
not.
about in the first generation, or I mean third, but even without any attack boosting
Gen
moves, unlike other fighting types, Hariyama might just have the bulk to just genuinely be a good fighting type.
You know what the funny thing is?
I'm
I wanted to recommend Hariyama for a while, but I never did because I thought it was just been hella mid. And then Zach and Theus just said Iron Hands, and I was like, oh, you know what? That's basically the same thing. Just do that. So I don't know. Maybe when you do the Iron Hands video and you're waiting and you're trying to do some filler episodes for before season two finishes or whatever, maybe the Hariyama video can come.
Actually, there is one idea I have after I make the videos on the creation trio. which I don't think you guys are going to see coming, but I think you're going to be so down for. What if first impression was in Gen 1 OU? Because someone might said, yeah,
Oh,
just give first impression a chance, but just have people, gentlemen, agree to only use it once. And I told them that's way too hard to, justify. Or not justify, way too hard to enforce. But then it made me think, when I did the Toxapex video, I gave it Bangful Bunker. And granted, that's because I didn't know the move was broken, but in terms of what if videos where I'm the one in control of the replays, I can very much, easily just use these moves how they're supposed to be. And if that's the case, I think I kind of want to make another video giving Glycopod another shot, but it's just me using first impression how it's supposed to. And I think giving Glycopod a second chance is very fair. What do you guys think?
In terms of giving Glycopod first impression, I say no.
Like, not for Generation
Because
Jumble. It's just gonna be its own video.
for its own video,
Yeah.
I think could be interesting at the very least, just to show people what it can do.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this was weeks ago now, but like I was contemplating Slitherwing. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if Slitherwing just had first impression as its like quote unquote signature, you know? Uh, and that's when we found out it was entirely broken, and it basically turns it into a nuclear warhead.
Yeah,
And it's
just bug type extreme speed.
it's yeah, +3 priority, and I think it's like 80 base power or something. And it's too strong. It completely renders Psychic an unviable type purely off of that. Having, say, Glycopod in the back, and they've got Exeggutor, Alakazam, Starmie, Slowbro. They're all essentially either being one shot or taking 85 to 90%. And
Okay,
there's
here's what
nothing
we
they
do.
can
Here's what
do
we do. All
about
right,
it.
a sneeze alert might be a big problem, but instead of banning it, we gotta like listen to like angry people on YouTube comments or Twitter threads when Fitch or ban something. Instead of banning sneeze alert, we're just gonna give Glycopod first impressions, because with +3 priority, it can hit sneeze alert before it gets hit with Dire Claw.
No. I though I am very interested to get angry Twitter's opinions on everything.
Yeah.
As per usual, angry Twitter has all the best takes.
Yeah, like we're gonna ban Sneasler, and all of a sudden, 50 plus people are gonna apparently be fans of Generation Jumble and give us their insightful take.
Yeah, now that's
All over
any
YouTube for that to
exposure
happen.
is good exposure.
Yeah, if you want your format to be popular, ban something, because it'll get people mad, which will make them talk about it.
Ah,
it-
see, this is the idea person.
Yeah. This is why you should definitely subscribe, because I'm getting close to 900 subscribers, which is basically like getting close to 1,000 subscribers. And as you can see here, I am a great, like, market man with the publicity. I'm convincing you to subscribe right now. And if you're not, shit, I'm in trouble. Damn, I am
Shit.
so great at transitions. God damn.
God damn. I'll make 1 point on Hariyama. It does have a signature move,
It
unlike
does?
Iron Hands.
What's it called again?
Yeah, it gets arm thrust.
Oh.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it is a signature move.
Oh, I mean,
It-
wait, how strong is arm thrust exactly?
It's 15 base power, hits 2 to 5 times. It's basically fighting pin missile.
Okay, I'm not even going to acknowledge it in the video. Because the worst part is,
Well,
unlike
that's
pin
not
missile,
at all.
it could have merit. Because, like, even with just, like, 2 arm thrust, that's, like, technically doing more damage than low kick. so it's ever so slightly better than neutral earthquake, but it can just hit more than that. So no, oh no, I don't want to think about that actually being like the best fighting move for it.
That's pretty funny.
Just
It
stop
would be good at
talking about it.
breaking
I don't want to
sub.
see fighting type pin missile.
Yeah,
I don't want to see
I,
fighting type pin missile.
it breaks substitutes better.
no,
You know, you break a substitute on the third hit, and then you get 2 more hits after that.
no,
E
no.
Gen 1 moment.
No, no.
Mm.
Oh, there it is.
This is
Our-
this is slander.
Viewers, send your prayers.
This is like this is making me uncomfortable. So I think lastly we should talk about the how we think poison types are going to do as a whole, and then after that I actually have to go because apparently my little brother Convex made pizza.
Oh,
Good
tell
lucky you.
Convex thank you for bringing me some pizza. It's really nice for him to make us some pizza.
Oh, no, like I'm eating your guys' slices because I won the first season Generation Jumble. That makes me king.
Uh,
You
oh
won because you
yeah.
cheated. You won because you cheated.
Okay, well, okay, like
Facts,
Cyber, hear me
allegations.
out. I know you hate Jinx, and I know it basically lost you the entire tournament. But maybe if you used Sneasler, maybe I would have lost. Ever think of that?
No, I think things are about to get domestic.
Damage.
I think he's gonna kill me. I think Cyber's gonna
Science,
actually
dude.
kill me.
Well, where's the fun in that? Where's if I do that, then who's gonna host these tournaments and who's gonna be background noise while I'm playing
Yeah,
Minecraft?
that is true. That is true. I'm gonna wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there
Hmm.
won't be a What If There's a Generation 1 video. I don't know. We have to keep you alive.
Uh, unfortunately. But yeah,
Yep,
poison
no
type.
sweet embrace today.
I think we talked about poison type as a whole already, so this can probably be pretty short. But most of the Pokemon we're adding that are poison type are either like really weak, like Amoonguss, Toxapex, or Quagsire, will not use its poison type like Naganadel, or it's just like a fucking asshole. Could be talking about literally anyone. But I do think it's interesting that it's more so the poison types already here that are going to benefit the most. Gengar, I think by default, will probably be the best one because just having a better option for Nightshade that can actually help you beat one of your counters is surprisingly good, and that's something I think any of us really anticipated on. And Nidoking, like I said, like I know like Old Gamer pointed out, is just flat out better having 2 physical stabs. Wizard is already something that it's probably using anyways, but being able to hit grass types with the physical super effective stab coverage is so much better. Like Executor can take Nidoking's Blizzard way better than a poison jab. And you even have like Venusaur and Tentacruel, who will be Sword Stance users, who now just have more options. Venusaur doesn't have to only use Hyper Beam and Body Slam for its physical. It can replace Body Slam for Poison Jab if it wants, to give it more coverage. And Tentacruel, because of how high its special is, I'm not sure if like Sword Stance is the best thing for it. But doing more damage with Hyper Beam, Poison Jab, and technically doing more damage with Wrap, or even just having like a strong special option like Hydro Pump or Blizzard, are very good for it. So I think in general, Poison is gonna be really, I think it's gonna be surprisingly good, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's just seen as a genuinely good offensive type, and not just something you can use to fight against Executor. Although the Poison champs will be annoying, but that's gonna be both a blessing and a curse for both players involved.
Yeah, I for the poison type, I think the older Pokemon getting a buff is going to be the most interesting. I remember we talked about this in the season 1 breakdown, season 2 predictions video about Venusaur and Tentacruel. Like Venusaur having Poison Jab, Razor Leaf, Sleep Powder, and Sword Stance. It's much better than what it initially was. And Tentacruel having like Poison Jab, Blizzard, Wrap, Sword Stance. They're infinitely better than they were before because they're not completely walled out by a certain Pokemon on either the physical or special spectrum, if you will. Like if you come across Goodra, you've got your Sword Stance Poison Jab. When if you really don't want to fight it, you can either Wrap and switch or Sleep Powder and switch. But you've got Poison Jab to hit it on the physical side, whereas something like Iron Hands, you've then got Razor Leaf and Blizzard to, at the very least, hit it on the special side, or you've got the options to switch out. So they're interesting Pokemon. I think they've benefited a lot more than previous Pokemon. I don't know if they're going to be good, but they're going to be interesting. You can make them work. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think, Cyber?
Much exactly what you said. It is kind of funny that Victory Bell finally has a move that isn't less than 90% accuracy. So that's worth something, I guess. Because it's kind of like a hybrid of Victory Bell, or I should say Venusaur and Tentacruel. So that's something. But I don't know, man. I still hate this thing. You know how many times 95% accurate Razor Leaf has cost me the game.
But that's the funny thing. Like, you can, if you really wanted to, you can get away with not using Razor Leaf. Because for Victory Bell, or more likely Venusaur, since Venusaur is faster, and I think has higher special, Razor Leaf as an auto crits are really good. But now the issue is Sweet Powder, Poison Jab, Sword Stance, Body Slam, Hyper Beam are all really good moves. So Venusaur, I think the first time in its life, will be suffering from 4 move swap syndrome.
Yeah, I think having a move to take on Pokemon like Rhydon and Golem is going to be kind of necessary because it just feels weird to be walled by them when you actually have a perfect move to deal with them. Same with Cloyster as well. It
Yeah.
can kind of ignore you, whereas at least if you've got Razor Leaf, they're at the very least going to be scared to switch into you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be some of the better like mixed attackers that get boosted because they've got the kits. I'm a little worried about their speeds. You know, you've got 70, 80, and 100.
I mean, we already got a
They're
lot of
exploitable.
things that are like, we already talked about Cloyster, a lot of things that are like, like base 40 or 50 speed. I don't think Victor Bell is going to be used at all. I think Venusaur is always going to be better. Unless you want to use a really scary Sword Stance wrap on Victory Bell. But, like, funny enough, because Venusaur hits so hard with Razor Leaf and could be a good mix attacker, I think we can actually see some sets of Venusaur that don't even have Sweet Powder. Or if you want to use not Razor Leaf, whatever move you're not using, your opponent doesn't know, and whatever move they don't know you have just makes Venusaur extremely dangerous. And it means that you don't have a safe switch in until you know its moveset. And by that point, it might be too late. So I think Venusaur is probably the best, not the best Sword Stancer. Haxorus just has like really dumb numbers that like get really high. And Tentacruel probably has more options with its, pivoting potential and special. But Venusaur, I think, I don't know, it might be the best Sword Dancer in execution. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Like, the element of surprise is a big deal.
Your audio kind of like glitched out there. Can you say that again?
The element of surprise, that definitely like helps it out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it could.
Yeah. I'll just say this real quick. I don't
Yeah.
know if both Cyber and Zach have like if their voices sound echoey like in the last video. I apologize if they do. I don't know how to fix that. But if someone can like knows how to in the comments, I would greatly appreciate it. Assuming they sound like that. But if they don't, yay, you get to hear their voices. I hope you enjoy them.
To be fair, it wasn't the worst thing in the first video. Like,
Mm.
I listened through the video again afterwards, and after a while, I've heard worse.
Yeah, you
So,
watch most of my videos when I still had static in the background.
hey,
Personality.
yeah, that's it. That's it. We're gonna start off echoey and crispy, and we'll become up to groundbacks level. Think about that.
Oh, okay, so like we're going to change this. Instead of calling these videos Generation Jumble Council Meeting, I think instead I'm just gonna call this Groundback's Echo Chamber.
That's that's actually pretty funny. I like that.
Okay, so
Except
like
it's
ignore
the
the
opposite of
thing
an
on
echo
screen.
chamber.
Ignore this big thing on screen that says Generation Jumble Council. Like, I'm too lazy to edit it, but just close your eyes and pretend I'm putting a big X over it, and I'm writing in its place, Groundback's Echo Chamber. All right? Can you do that? Like, you like what if videos, so I'm assuming you have imagination.
I like it being called the echo chamber because it's the opposite of an echo chamber, and you just have shit opinions and we roast you for it.
Okay, but here's the issue. Like, if you guys disagree with me, like, I'll just, like, do what I want anyways. So it's almost just like, I'm just like, it's called Groundback's Echo Chamber because I'm just hoping you agree with me. But if you don't, I just ignore you.
Incel back.
uh, man, Dictator
Confirmation
back.
bias
Gotta
was
be one of my
strong with
favorite
this
forms. Or what sounds better, Dictator back or Groundtator?
one. Ground Tater is actually is one of the funniest that I've heard so far. I haven't heard Ground Tater before, but it makes me think of a southern potato.
Okay, like, you didn't hear from me, but I'm literally recording this video with an Irish sweatshirt on that I got from Ireland.
Oh, you went to Ireland? Oh no, as an Englishman, that makes me sad.
Oh, I forgot you're Englishman.
Oh,
Prick.
I'm obligated to be racist to every other member of the United
Okay,
Kingdom. So,
okay, so now that I know
Ah.
that Zack and Theus is British, I can't tell if that makes the poison type as a whole better or worse.
I think it enhances everything I touch. Because as we all know, the British have only done good things for the world.
Hmm. Cyber, is this true?
Hmm.
The law requires that I stay quiet.
Uh, okay,
That's it. Because who knows, the British Empire might come back. So
okay, like,
make sure you're in
Cyber
local
might keep
phrases.
his mouth shut because saying bad things might get you in trouble. But I'm dumb, so I'm just gonna speak my mind. Fuck you. Fuck the British. All of my Indian and Irish homies hate you. We hope you die. We hope that, like, Scotland, like, has a very violent armed revolution. But you're technically still better than France. And probably Germany.
My rocks is
Yeah,
definitely gonna feel that one.
Oh.
we are literally better than France. There's no opinion.
uh,
That's an objective fact.
uh,
Oh, all the French viewers, all four of them have wept a
Right,
single
John gets no
gasp
yeah.
views
tear.
anyways. No French viewers are gonna see this. He gets no
Like,
views anyways.
like, Anir, if you still watch these videos, fuck you, and fuck all of your, like, me fucking horses jokes. I wish I was joking about this. But that is a real thing that went on for like a month.
That was a whole thing for a few. That was a whole thing for a few weeks. Damn.
Yeah, like, I don't know how
I
to really say this, but I'm not a horse fucker.
That's
Can we
something you
get that
needed
on
to
like
explain.
yeah? Let's get that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah. Like, what's this? Like, yeah, what's this?
That
Like,
feels
just to clear up any misconceptions, and just to make you more comfortable, if you want to play Generation Jumble Season 2, on the list of things that are theoretically fuckable, I do not have horses on that list.
Is Godzilla one of them?
So anyways, I think we should wrap up the video. Thank you guys for being here. We had a nice talk. I think we cleared up most, or I think only
I
like
think
the
this
first
council
5
meeting
minutes
was nice.
like only the first 5 minutes was like clearing up misconceptions and just setting things out, and then the rest of the video was just, I don't know, just ranting. I think instead of Generation Jumble Council meeting or Grandpa's echo chamber, we should just call this video "Fuck Sneasler."
All we needed was a
Sneasler
All we needed was a Ryan Gosling gag, and then it would have cemented everything.
Yeah,
It,
man,
it should be
crazy
Fuck
how like this
Sneasler and
channel will
other
get.
degenerate ramblings.
Man, isn't it crazy how this channel is gonna be so popular? One day we're gonna have BKC and like Big Yellow as Generation Jumble Council members.
Oh yes, by season 4, at the latest, I think that's when they're gonna get on board. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
4,000.
like I think it's gonna suck for all three of us because people with actual experience means our opinions won't inherently be as valuable, or at least for you two. We've already established I don't care if you disagree with me. I'll just do what I want either way.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. Actually, like, when that happens, you guys, I'm just gonna remove you guys from the Generation Jumble Council. All we really need is BKC. Let's be real.
Yeah, and we could have an opinion on that, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, if it's not a good opinion that agrees with the ground back, does it even matter?
Is it even an opinion at that point?
It's
Man,
an empty statement.
man, I sure have some like opinions. Sure would be a shame if like a woman that plays in Generation Jumble were to disagree with me and make a joke at my expense.
That happens a lot.
Nudge,
That
nudge.
does happen a lot.
Wait, there were women in my Discord server, Saku's domain? Very reminder, you should join the Discord server. We have women.
There is, as far as I'm aware, at least one female.
Like,
I counted 2.
I'm pretty sure there's like at least 4. Because you got Zasterly,
That's-
Faye, Sprout, and HP.
Oh yeah, there's 4. Okay.
Yeah, and there's probably even more. You don't know. The only way you'll know is if
Actually-
you join. So if you're like
Actually, 4.5, since second case isn't very masculine.
Yeah,
Wait.
I've decided that I'm now
Oh.
female.
Well,
I mean, he's gonna be girl bossing around in the tournament.
I'm gonna be
You heard it
girl
here
bossing the
first, folks.
Sneasler.
Yeah,
Yep.
Zach and Thea's and his
Before she
girlfriend
gets
Slowbro.
Ooh, new
That's-
Slowbro lore.
Well, that's
Ooh,
more so a
Slowbro
reference
lore?
towards season
Ooh.
1, where he used Slowbro, even though Sceptile was everywhere. Every time you used it with
It
fucking
was-
Blizzard, I was so confused.
It was. Look, I tried. I wanted it to be good. I looked at everything and I said, "This is the answer." I did the maths. I did the sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics, and then Septile existed, and I forgot. And then your Jinx put my Slowbro to sleep for 6 turns, and did nothing.
Hmm.
So
Explosion, and it was good. Me use that.
Miko Boom Boom!
yes,
It make number!
Yes,
it did a lot of
it
numbers on
almost
my
and it
team.
would have too. If it wasn't for that meddling Jinx.
I'm pretty sure you were going Boom Boom in the other games. I don't think it was in the last game that much.
Oh, just keep waiting.
Actually, I don't
Oh,
remember.
no.
What was your lead in the final game? It definitely wasn't Wedgie Lucky, because I feel like if you had Wedgie Lucky, I feel like Jinx would have just been like carp stomped.
No, it wasn't. I think it was Starmie. It could have been. I'm pretty sure it was Starmie.
Okay, that explains it. Like, maybe Starmie should get explosion at some point. Because it's definitely a Pokemon that could theoretically create an explosion. And if like a ball that's just has eyes and a smile can explode, I think an alien can explode. So yeah, I'm not gonna ask you guys' opinion. We're just gonna give Starmie explosion, and there's gonna be zero negative repercussions of this.
I'm ready to see it on 0% of Starmie sets. Let's go.
Yeah, no, you don't understand.
Me,
Like
no,
Starmie,
I exist.
yeah, like Zack and Theus exist. Zashly, we're just like in the first video, we keep name dropping her multiple times. I think we have a problem. But anyway,
No.
she has a habit of just using sets that are wrong. So she's probably going to use
Very
Thunderbolt
appealing.
Explosion
Like
Starmie.
Kindle.
But yeah, like it's gonna be good because like Starmie is very overpowered. So I think if we just have it like kill itself, it won't be as overpowered because it'll be gone sooner. And I don't even know what the point of
Yes,
this video is anymore. I think I'm just saying
Nope.
words, even if they don't make sense when they come out.
Fuck
Council
Sneasler.
meeting.
And
I just
other
felt like it was a
degenerate
lot.
members.
Let's see here.
This is supposed to be a council meeting.
It is supposed to be a council meeting, isn't it? Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to the first generation Jumble Council meeting. Full circle, baby. I think we should finally do closing remarks, and then I can go and I can just eat my cold pizza.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got pizza. I'm.
uh,
I hope it's a good pizza.
British people aren't allowed to eat food.
But I'm cool, right?
Look, to be fair, we did invade the world, steal all of their spices, and then proceed to not use them in any dish we've ever made. So,
No, that's why you have beans on toast.
beans on toast is so good. Yeah.
Wait, wouldn't that be
It's
like,
illegal.
wouldn't that be soggy?
No, look. It first of all, it depends on your toast preference. Some people have like charcoal toast, so there's no saving the bread at that point. But you get the right toastiness, and then you get the baked beans. You don't let it sit there. It's not like a bowl of cereal. It doesn't act that way. It just beans on toast. Have a bit of butter. People, sausages. Beans on toast. If you haven't had it, it's because you're wrong.
Okay, like you probably made a good
This is
point, but like you
blasphemy.
said, like some people have their toast charcoaled, and I just spent like the last minute just like with absolute disgust on my face.
Yep. It hurt to say, but it's true.
It's
As a
gonna hurt a
bread
lot more
person,
once I make it
this
to
is
once I
blasphemy.
make it to the UK.
Brownback UK tour where he's gonna get mugged by a roadman. There we go.
Man, you guys
gonna
are
get
not
mugged by a
prepared for
weasel.
terror's back.
Oh, new
Yep.
nicknames.
Yeah, I'm just
I
gonna
will
be there in
declare
my
it in.
I'm gonna be in my Irish sweatshirt. I'm just gonna be screaming out till my lungs come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man.
Oh, look, I will declare it a formal land invasion, and I'll post Sneasler on your Twitter.
We're the British. We still rule the waves. I swear.
No, they just have bad teeth and eat bread with weird combinations.
Beans on toast is so good. Like, as a culture, I'd rather have bad teeth and baked beans than good teeth and no baked beans. Like, just gonna put that out there.
Look, the baked beans had their place, but the toast, I don't think the toast is one of them. That's just my opinion. Look, you got the rice, you got other things. The toast is not one of them.
Okay, so
You'll come to the side of
okay,
beans on
a
toast.
final council meeting. We need to decide if like baked beans on toast will be allowed for Generation Jumble Season 2. I think that would be like for the. I think that might be like a debuff for the poison type, of being honest, or maybe it counts for one of the other types. I can't tell. Would beans be a grass type? Is anything real? I don't even know what toast would be. Like, I guess fairy, because there's that one bread dog in Gen 9.
Fido.
Are we are you even still watching the video at this point, or are we just wasting your time? Or, like, are you just sleeping right now because you use this video as, like, ASMR?
Oh, if this is ASMR, then the content has really gone through a downward spiral.
Yeah, like, well, hold on a second. If it's ASMR and you're asleep right now, let me just go close to the microphone. Subscribe to Ground Back, subscribe to Ground Back, subscribe to Ground Back, subscribe to Ground Back. And, yeah, you should also subscribe to Ground
This is
Back,
like a
too.
Russian
Oh,
sleep
stop.
experiment.
Man, you guys are
This
not
is
gonna be prepared when I make an ASMR video, and then you're gonna have like ASMR like yandere Groundback kidnaps you and hyperfixates about Gen 1 OU.
that is the most cursed thing you've ever said. And
Hmm.
I will be alerting Zastily immediately.
Yeah, like unlike my regular channel for like Groundback ASMR, you're just gonna be my number one hater.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the reply guy. I'm gonna just comment everything. You suck.
Yeah,
Die.
yeah, you're just gonna say L plus ratio, but somehow you're actually gonna ratio the video with your comment. You're like
That's how it works, baby.
you're somehow gonna get more likes than there are views.
I'm gonna anti-ratio myself.
Okay, so at this point we're definitely
Right.
getting distracted.
Let's
So
end. Yeah,
let's
let's
quickly get
end.
this back on track. So Cyber, what are your final thoughts and predictions for Generation Jumble Season 2?
Fire Claw is stupid and it should be illegal, and Sneasler should count itself lucky that we even allow it to participate in the first place. Also, Iron Hands is awesome, and Tauros is still the GOAT, even though he is a bull.
Okay, the other guy's British, I don't care about his opinion, so I'm gonna end the video.
I'm gonna state my opinion.
Mm.
Uh, let's see. My British opinion on this is that Iron Hands is going to be good, Gudra is going to be good, Naganadel is going to be good, Sneasel is going to get banned. Um, Everything else is going to be either decent to mid. Amoongus, Toxapex, Clodsire, absolutely useless. And I think we might have to ban Beans on Toast to Ubers because a very specific set can just wall Mewtwo entirely. So we'll see how that plays out. That's my British opinion.
Okay, well, I think the correct opinion is that beans on toast, even in tenure, will be a very unviable strategy. And they have tackle there as their main attacking move. But as for things that are not Gen 1 tenure, which is a hard sentence to say, um, I my opinion at the end of the day, I think Caesar itself is the main problem, and it would just make many other Pokemon unviable. So I think Caesar itself needs to go. I didn't talk about it that much, but I don't actually think Gudra will be as strong as people think it will be. Like, I think it'll be the only thing that could possibly be an alternative to Chansey, but I can see physical things doing a good enough job against it. I think the poison type has a lot of potential, and I think I'm really excited to see how they do. The fighting types are going to be as solid as you would expect they would be, and the bug types, you sure are there. You are trying your best, and I think your viability completely relies on how good the poison, fighting type, and psychic types do.
So I'll say that I think Gengar, Alakazam, and Annihilate are the biggest winners, suspected winners
Mm.
that are going to be compared to season one, and
I'd argue Sneasel is probably a bigger winner, but
probably
that's just me.
just because Sneasel carries L's, carries W's is a different thing.
Mm.
But compared to season one, Alakazam, Gengar, and Annihilate are going to be much better this season, and Executor, Jolteon, and maybe this might be a bit of a hot take. Maybe Rhydon might fall quite a bit compared to season one.
That's interesting. Like, I think
It's
Rhydon's
just
success just
more.
depends on how good like Zapdos does. Because Rhydon's just a generally good Pokemon all around. But if Zapdos still ends up being good, then Rhydon's gonna end up being good. But if Rhydon ends up like falling off what a bit, then Armaldo is actually gonna just see a huge like surge in viability. So it's interesting to see. We have a lot of there's a lot of things to look forward to. I will most likely make the Iron Hands video today, but if I don't, it will definitely be there tomorrow. And if that's the case, do we start Generation Jumble Season 2 immediately? Not the actual tournament. We're probably going to start that on April 2nd. But, like, what's today? The 22nd? Are you guys okay with starting Generation Jumble Season 2 on the 24th?
Yeah, like getting the practice matches and all that sort of stuff in. I think so. And then for starters, we two things. One, we need to get an official head count on who is going to be in the tournament. And two, don't forget to make those rolls for Cyber and I.
Or,
Don't forget.
I
Slap
mean,
back.
I'm kind of being serious
Yes.
when I said it today in the server. I might just make you guys mods just instead. I think Myrock has abused his mod position for the last time. I shall not stand for it. And also, to be fair, like if I even if I did,
How do I use mod position?
yeah, like even if I did make the Generation Jumble, like I made that an actual rule for you guys. For what I want to do, which is to make you guys like like put you above mods so that like your color is whatever, and if it's like above everything, as well as give you the ability to ping like everyone and change roles. You might just be able to see mod general anyways. And if what I'm doing is just making you mods with just a different name, at that point, maybe it might just be easier and just makes more sense just to make you mods. But that's something I guess we'll discuss outside of the video, as it's more so like a Saku's domain rather than Generation Jumble Season 2. But that's
Makes sense.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Okay, so then that's everything. Cyber DJ, Zach and Theus. I would say thank you for joining me, but I think most of the time it's usually me that ends up flaking or just putting you guys in a state of limbo. So I think instead I should just say sorry, I'm inconsistent, but I'm glad you guys are still here for whatever reason. Also,
Yep, we would
yeah.
like.
The autism chases many things.
The last thing I'll say, this little subtitle here was drawn by Zach and Theus. He thinks he doesn't know how to draw, so be sure to tell him that he's wrong and stupid and ugly. Okay, maybe not that last part. Instead of calling him ugly, maybe just say he's a good artist. But yeah, that's
Ooh, that's
yeah.
a good 50-50, that is. I'll take that. Yeah.
but yeah, that subtitle might just be our logo. Just for the council members. And I think that's everything. This is probably a long video. I'm not going to be surprised if this is also a 3-hour video like the other one. But if it is, comment down below if you actually watched all of it. You probably didn't because near the end we just got super unhinged. But yeah, this was a lot of fun.
There's
Cyber
going to be a
DJ,
lot of
you should say something.
10-second skips in this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for watching. Until next time, and there will be plenty of other Generation Jumble council meetings, even if they're debatably not even council meetings and just people talking. But until that inevitably happens, until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.